Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. Hey, folks, if you like all things true crime related from that police detective's perspective, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon and where is he? Keeps changing on me.
You're the one that's handling it.
All right, let me change it real quick. There you go. All right. And this guy over here, Ed Wallace, when we go live, Ed, you're always playing games on me, man. You're always trying to trick me. Tonight we got a great Forensic Friday for you. We got Ed Wallace. We have special guest Nick Rinn, and we're going to be taking live questions from the audience on the second half of the show. So stick around to the second half. We'll be here for the hour. We are going to get into forensics, underwater, fingerprint lifting. It is going to be a learning show tonight. But before we get into it, Ed, we want to say thank you to you, the supporters, the replay viewers, the channel members, the folks who are Patreons, the buying of the coffee, the super thanks. And you guys are really what makes this great place. You're second to none. And we give thanks and praise to you guys. We don't take it for granted. And we thank you for your support. A lot of things happening, though. This is going to be a different kind of live because we're going to talk about three different things. Shanda Vanderark, we had that live stream last night. It was a tough one to listen to. Convicted and guilty on murder first degree and child abuse in the first degree. It took over just a little bit over an hour, and the jury deliberated, and they came back with guilty across the board. She should rot inside of that cage in prison. Now she's in jail, but she'll go up to prison. I hope she rots thinking about what she did to poor Timothy, her own flesh and blood. Ed, we're back and forth all day on this. What's your thoughts on this quick guilty verdict?
I'm happy for the conviction. It was justified. I'm not happy that she will not be eligible for the ultimate penalty for her crime.
Yeah.
And she's going to be at taxpayers' expense, rotting away in prison, in my opinion, with no chance of parole. I hope that is what she's sentenced to, which is going to be in January. She's sentencing is scheduled for January.
I hope and pray she does not have one good day, and I hope and pray that she has a miserable time, just as she did, and she tortured poor little Timothy Ferguson, 15 years young, for over 6 months. It was
her flesh and blood. Her flesh and blood.
Despicable. We also have on the docket to speak about tonight, and I hate to say the docket, but this is pressing topics to talk about. University of Idaho made a final decision to demolish 1122 King Road. University of Idaho says that it's time for healing, to move on. The defense is going out to the crime scene again, as we heard. They sent out their crime scene investigators. I think it was a guy from the state of Washington went out there, Ed. We saw him way back, but they're going to go back again one more time. The defense for Brian Kohlberger is going to go back out to 1122 King Road. Ed and I are going to talk a little bit about that, along with our special guest, Nick Rinn from Oregon Rescue Divers. So I'm happy to have him here with us tonight because we got a lot to talk about. But Ed, I wanted to get your thoughts before we go into the learning part of the show about 1122 King Road. Your thoughts, and many people know how you feel about it, but they're going to demolish it the 28th, which is the last Thursday of December.
Again, I'm still of the opinion is to hold it until after the trial. Okay. Again, it's the old adage: better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Okay. I don't know how many times I can say this, but for some reason, the powers that be at the university think that by taking this house down in December, that there's going to be instant healing occurring from said demolition of the house, and it's just the furthest thing from the truth. Okay. I don't understand. I really don't understand how they got so fixated on tearing the house down. It'll happen in time. Okay.
Yeah. To me, it's just despicable because, if you have one or more of the jurors that want to go there and see it for their own self. We saw that with Alec Murdoch. The jurors wanted to go out. There was that whole field trip that they took. So you never know what these jurors are going to say or feel. They're going to have the 3D goggles to look at the crime scene, courtesy of Faro 3D laser scanners, right? We know that happened, but what if? What if they want to go back there? Once you demolish it, it's done. It's gone. So
Yeah, I'm a big fan of 3D laser scanning. I'm a big fan of virtual reality and so forth. But you know, I know the crime scene has been altered like numerous times over the processing, several visits by multiple visits by law enforcement, and the recent visit by the FBI, now a second visit by the defense team. And with each visit, things are changing and so forth. It's not going to be the original. The photographs, the videos, the original scans that were taken are the original documentation for the scene. But it's still, as I said, I'd rather have it and not need it than to create any reasonable doubt in a juror's mind who says, I want to go out and see that crime scene. And now they can't.
yeah,
Now, again, it's not the defense's job to prove their client innocent. It's the defense's job to create reasonable doubt. And all it takes is one person on that jury to have that reasonable doubt. And if that reasonable doubt comes from the fact that they couldn't go out to the crime scene and see it for themselves because the university was such a rush to tear it down, shame on them.
yeah, and they're going to be the sole finger to point at. Everyone's going to be looking at them. There was a statement from the Gonzalez family. They said that their daughter had many good times with their friends there, and it's going to break her heart to see it be demolished. Yes, there was a horrific quadruple murder that took place there, but they do not want it tore down until after the trial. And Southwest 4x4 Explorers sent a super chat in, and thank you, Michael Joseph Murray and Kel, for your super chats and your questions and comments, which says, can anything stop the destruction?
Court order.
Yeah, it would be a court order. Yeah, it would be the only one, the judge or the prosecution or defense, but they're both on board.
Right.
And that's what baffled me, is they were both on board with demolishing it.
Well, again, it can't come from just any Joe Blow citizen. It has to have somebody with standing in the case. And
Correct.
currently, the only three people that have standing in the case is the prosecutor, the defense attorney, and the judge.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. All right, so let's jump right into what we're talk about here tonight. Ed, if you want to set it up for the audience, what we're gonna cover here tonight. I do still, in the middle of the show, I still have some stuff. I want to play a little piece from the Koberger stuff and the home being demolished. It's a small piece, and we'll get into that with Nick. But yeah, just let the folks know what we're going to be doing now.
So in the past show when we had Nick on, Nick and I were talking before the show, and Nick had gone to some underwater crime scene training courses, and he was going to talk about, I wanted Nick to talk about what he had learned about evidence underwater, and specifically fingerprints and things of that nature. So we didn't get a chance to do it last time. So here we go. We're bringing Nick right back on now, and we're going to get into exactly what he learned at his training courses.
Without further ado, Nick Rinn from Oregon Rescue Divers joining us tonight. Nick, whoa, what's happening there?
Oh, hey, how's it going, guys?
Nick, you seem
good to see you.
You got your lab coat on, you got your magnifying glass, and you got some evidence that you got there.
Nick is getting his forensic geek on.
Yeah,
that's right.
He's geeking out with us tonight. And you know what? Listen, Nick, I want to just say seriously, thank you for wanting to come back and spend a Forensic Friday with Ed and I and our community. You're doing so much, and you've got so much happening. The wheels are spinning with your new venture that you have, Oregon Rescue Divers. You're doing so much training. You're trying to get yourself, at the forefront where you can offer these services to these smaller police departments throughout the country. And you and I spoke, and I want you to, out of the gate before we jump into this whole Forensic Friday, you got a mission that you guys are going to possibly be going on this weekend. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about what you're doing with your new, rescue group with this weekend coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again for having me. It's fun being here, and I always learn a lot talking to you guys, and I'm stoked. I have some questions for Ed that I'll get into later. But yes, since last weekend's live that I did with you guys, obviously that was a huge push, and it kind of put us on the map. My emails have been coming in pretty frequently now, and I had a gal reach out to me from a smaller community in eastern Idaho, and they've got a young kid, a 16-year-old kid that apparently about a week or so ago, he was out duck hunting with his buddies, and it sounds like he might have been reaching off the side of the boat to get retrieve a duck that he had got, and apparently he had accidentally fell out of the boat, and he was wearing waders, and of course he went down underwater and he never resurfaced. So they know he's somewhere underwater, and it's actually part of the Snake River, and it runs into a reservoir, a fairly good sized reservoir out there.
It's by Pocatello, Idaho.
Yeah, it's fairly close to Pocatello, Idaho. That's, I think, one of the bigger towns near there. And so they've reached out to me because they've had a few search and rescue teams show up, and with minimal luck, they can't find him. And, it's one of those remote places that the search teams, by the way, they're just like me and my team. They're volunteers, so they can only, really afford to be gone from their normal jobs for a day or two. And so they came in and they did what they could, but they can't find him. And so I have a mission that I have to do in Southern Oregon tomorrow that I've been, we tried to do about a week ago, but the weather was too bad to get over there. So Saturday I have to go down there, finish a dock repair. And then Sunday morning we're heading to Idaho unless he's found by then. So I've got a couple points of contact in that area, and they're keeping me posted. But as of right now, they still haven't found him. And so there's 3 of us on our team that are packing up stuff and planning on leaving Sunday morning to head over there for a couple days to see if we can help find this kid.
And I'm going to play just a small little clip from local news. Jaden Jensen is the young man who is still missing. So here's the little clip.
More than a week now since Jaden Jensen disappeared while hunting with friends in the McTucker Ponds area west of Fort Hall. Search and rescue crews are focusing their search in the area where the Snake River enters the American Falls Reservoir. Weather has been creating challenges. Today, the Bingham County Sheriff's Office posted this picture on its Facebook page showing ice forming on the water, which makes it harder for the boats to operate. It also affects how well some of the equipment functions. The Sheriff's Office says it will keep looking for Jaden Jensen as long as it is safe. They are very grateful for all the help they have received from other agencies around the area.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Nick Rinn going out on yet another mission to try to, bring the missing home, bring this kid home to his family. And you can't put a price tag on that. And kudos to you guys. Be safe. It looks like there's some pretty difficult conditions out there from what they're describing. I know that you probably did your advanced scouting on that location. So, yeah, kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
So Ed, you want to take over and jump in and just give me a
Sure.
second to set it up.
Okay. So Nick,
Uh-oh. What happened? Ed froze on us.
He's locked up like a bird dog.
oh, there you go.
right,
You're back.
nice.
Everybody's back.
You're back. We were
Okay.
all here. It's you, Ed.
Okay. No, I don't know. I'm hardwired in. But anyhow, so Nick, let's talk about your training. What trainings
Sure.
have you gone to recently?
Yeah, so the first one I went to was a course called Underwater Criminal Investigator, and it was put on by a guy named Mike Berry, who actually founded that organization several years ago. And it's he does trainings all over the world, and that particular company is recognized by FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security. He's got a book that he's wrote, and he's got another one coming out. And this is also the textbook that they'll give you when you take the course. And for any of those public safety diver teams out there that haven't taken this course, I highly recommend it. It was an amazing course. I learned a lot. This textbook has a lot of information that you'll definitely want to keep with you in the field. So if you ever want to refer to different charts and different things like that, it's a good thing to keep in your professional library. So that was the first part of that course I did was in Las Vegas area. We actually did our training dives in Lake Mead. And I don't know if some of you know, but in the last year, they've actually found a few human remains in that lake because of the super low water levels. And I actually, in the course, there was about 10 of us. A couple of the folks that were in that course with me were actually the search and rescue personnel from the Park Service that actually were involved with those recovery missions. So it was interesting to talk to them about that. So during those training days, we learned a lot about how to preserve evidence when you're coming up to whether it be human remains or a knife or a gun that's potential criminal evidence underwater. We went over all the basics of how to protect the integrity of the investigation by preserving all the evidence, not putting fingerprints on it, containing knives or weapons inside plastic containers and keeping them in water, because a lot of people don't know that, things underwater will stay preserved quite a while. It's when they come out and get exposed to the air that now the oxidation and that kind of stuff will actually take effect. And now you will rather quickly lose some of your integrity of the evidence. So we did a lot of training on those, a lot of search patterns where we would, the instructor would put different items in the lake and make us do a search pattern to try to find them. And you would put a mask or basically a black hood over your mask so that when you're doing these searches, you literally have no visibility. You're doing it all off a feel because some people might know this, but you don't really get the pristine conditions when you're doing search and recovery missions. Most of the time it's very bad visibility or none at all. So we trained under those kind of conditions. We did a lot of documentation, a lot of stuff of, chain of evidence so that if you find some, you don't just hand it over and then walk away. If you get called to go to court, and they're saying, well, what did you do with that knife after you handed it to so-and-so? I don't know where it went. And of course, now the defense can say, well, nobody kept an eye on it. So a lot of documentation and just a lot of legalities that you could use if you ever get called to go to court.
How long was that course? 40 hours?
The first one was 4 days. The fifth day was an add-on. And by the way, I was the only civilian volunteer. The rest of them were part of Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, the Lake Mead Park Services, and a couple of search and rescue places there. Mm-hmm. The first 4 days were all UCI based. The fifth day was an add-on, and it was specific to vehicle recovery. And on that day, they had a vehicle one that they actually used for training, and we took it down to about 15 miles below the dam at Lake Mead, and they yarded it off into the Colorado River, and we got to practice using lift bags, and we lifted it both from upside down and right side up. So we got a lot of training with lift bags and how to preserve a car evidence so that you don't damage it further, which I'm sure we'll go into a little bit further as we talk.
So for those who don't know what a lift bag is, okay, it's basically you'll take two sets of bags. The bags are connected by a strap, and you'll inflate the bags first you'll take the straps and either place it underneath the vehicle or whatever the case may be. And then what do you use? You use two sets of 4 bags? What did you use in total? What you did the car?
We used 4. So we had 4. Each of them are 2,000 pound rated.
Right.
So you basically put 1 at each tire is kind of the textbook method of doing that.
Right. And then you inflate the bags and it lifts the car off the bed of the water and brings it to the surface. And then you can, depending on how far out you are, right, attach a tow line and start to tow it towards shore. When you did your searches, did you do your spiral searches?
No, we mainly did jackstay searches.
Okay.
Now,
Explain
public
to-
safety
explain to me.
diver, yeah, public safety diver is more, they go more into circle searches and arc searches, and that's more for from the shore or from the close to the dock, and same with jackstays, but there's all different kinds depending on if you're going off of a boat out in the middle of the lake or from the shore. So we did several of those. We did one-man jackstays, two-man jackstays, and we did that was the majority of those. Now that was UCI, the first section. Then in a few months later, I signed up and went to Master Underwater Criminal Investigator course, and that one was in Virginia. And I was on site there for another 4 days doing that course. We went into more in depth. Now we went more into underwater fingerprints, where he would take knives, put his fingerprints on them, throw them in the lake, make us do our search patterns till we found the knives. We would pull them out, set them on the tailgate of a vehicle, let them dry till the end of the day, and then we would come over and he would show us how to pull prints from them. Basically, now, as an underwater criminal investigator or public safety diver, in a real world scenario, we won't be the ones pulling the prints from these items, but the whole point of this training is to prove to the students that yes, fingerprints will stay on an item underwater. And there's been studies done that I learned that, at least 30 days in most conditions. And there's been studies done that they've pulled prints off of underwater items up to 90 days after they've gone underwater.
I got a question. I got a question for both of you. And Ed or Nick, you could take this. As this pertains to like Kiely Rodni, that search that you did, or that dive that you did, would this kind of training, had you had that prior to it, helped in any way as it pertains to Kiely Rodni's recovery? And B, if it had no relevance, you just dove on the car, does this help you going forward to be a little more aware of, hey, I shouldn't be touching anything. I should just leave everything alone. So could you talk about how this training, if you had it, would have helped in that Kiely Rodni mission that you were on or not?
Absolutely. In fact, the reason I decided to sign up for these courses is because of that case and how that went down. And, I learned a lot of things that I did wrong by touching the vehicle. And so, yeah, absolutely. Especially with vehicle recovery. Now, I didn't have anything to do with the vehicle recovery on that particular case, but I don't believe the people involved with the recovery had extensive training. Otherwise, I think they would have used lift bags and, kind of like Ed touched on in the last live, lift it up in its position and get a crane to maintain the integrity of the stuff inside the vehicle instead of moving it around.
Well, see, as I said the last time, Nick, there's only two reasons to alter a crime scene, right? And it's life safety. And in the case of that car underwater with Kiely, there was no life safety issue other than the safety of the divers. And number two, evidence preservation. Now, the alteration occurring to that car underwater would have been to preserve the evidence inside the car by wrapping the exterior of the car to especially the areas where the windows were open and the one window was broken by them. Okay. Now, once you've done that, you wrap the car so that what's in the interior of the car stays in the interior of the car and doesn't get washed out when you raise the vehicle out of the water. So had they had the inflatable bags, they could have put them in the 4 tires and hooked them up to the suspension equipment there, and then lifted the car as is, and then floated the car towards shore, at which time they could have used any number of other techniques to lift the car out in place and then place it onto a flatbed to take the car to the laboratory as they found it, trying to preserve as much of the vehicle and information that's on the exterior of the vehicle, as well as everything that was in the interior of the vehicle. And as we know, they didn't do that. And so when they flipped the car, they just came out underwater. And then as they pulled the car out, other things got disturbed as well. And as you learned, items that go into the water that already have fingerprints on them, well, those fingerprints should still be there, because water in and of itself will not take away the fingerprints, because most of the fingerprints are made with oils, sebaceous gland material, okay, fatty acids, okay, and so oil and water doesn't mix. And so once those fingerprints are placed on there, it's going to typically stay there. Now, I've done experiments at the NYPD where I've put fingerprints on vehicle windows and the metal doors, and then taken an ordinary garden hose and sprayed it to see if they would eradicate the fingerprints. And it doesn't. You let it dry, you process it, or you can process it wet, which we'll show you in a little bit. And I've gotten the fingerprints. Then I said, okay, let's up the game. Power washer. Left fingerprints, broke out the power washer, hit the window and the door with the power washer, as you might do in an automated car wash, right? Where you put your coins in and use their power washer system. And, it generates a lot of energy. But guess what? Let it dry. Boom. Fingerprint's still there. Okay. Unless I got right on top of it with that nozzle of the power washer and went right, maybe like a half inch from the surface, that fingerprint maintained on that surface after I sprayed it. Okay. And as Nick, I don't know if did they talk to you about leaving fingerprints while you were underwater with your bare hand?
No, but you mentioned it, and that's interesting to think about.
So here's a glass of water. Everybody can see it. All right. I'm going to take my finger. Let's see, get close here, and I'm going to go under the water, and I'm going to touch the inside wall, and I'm going to pull away. And let me see if I got my flashlight here.
It's hard to see, but I actually saw it.
Oh yeah, it's there. It's there. Let me see.
Don't spill it.
No. Let's see if I can highlight it. But it's there. I can see it. But what I could do is dry this out. Oh, there it is. Folks, if you want to try this at home, okay, get yourself a glass of water, tap water. Okay, you don't have to get hot water or cold water, just lukewarm tap water. Fill it up, glass like this. Make sure the glass is clean, obviously. Put a little sebaceous gland material on your fingers if they're dry. You can wipe behind your ear or your forehead, and then stick your finger into the water and lightly touch it up against the inside of the glass, and you'll see your fingerprint there.
Right. And Ed, one of the people in the chat, I think the screen name was KC. He or she left the message that there was some female on the shore, as we see here, once the car was pulled out. So somewhere over here, when it was being pulled off and out of the water, just as it was touching out of the water, the wheels must have turned on the car or something. And we saw a female agent, don't know what agency she was with, and she reached into the car and turned the wheel.
That's right. I believe she was FBI. She bare hand and touched the steering wheel. Now, again, the steering wheel, depending on the surface of the steering wheel, I mean, if it was a leather wrap or it was some kind of faux plastic or faux leather or whatever the case may be, there could have been fingerprints there. There were also definitely DNA there, but apparently those types of evidence weren't being thought of as she was manipulating the steering wheel.
Yeah. And she didn't have gloves on, so it was bare hands going in there. So it's just interesting mistakes that you were able to see as an expert watching it. And for the record, Nick and his team that were there, all they did was make that discovery. They went and dived on the vehicle, and I'm not saying it to minimize it, because that was huge what you guys did. In 30 minutes, you went there and accomplished something that couldn't have been accomplished by 18 different agencies, ridiculous amount of man hours, and searching by air, sea, land, and whatever you want to call it. You guys did a fantastic job, but you were scooted away from that location. And, in the grand scheme of things, I think that was the right move, providing that there was the right forensic experts there to recover evidence. Now, this is deemed an accident and is no longer being investigated, but the case, according to some people out there that are following it closely, the case is still open. I don't know how, Ed, the case could be open if it was already deemed an accident. So can you or Nick talk about that? Because there are some people who are still, those are some redundant questions that keep coming in that, if the highway accident investigation squad deemed this thing an accident, is it still being investigated? Ed, I think I'll go to you on that.
Well, from what I read and from what we were told, the California Highway Patrol has the case still open, and I can't understand why. After so long that it's still open. You would think that everything would have been done by now. I mean, the cause and manner of death has already been declared. It's been declared an accident, and it was drowning. Okay, so that's what's on the death certificate. So why is the California Highway Patrol still hasn't finished its accident investigation? I have no clue. But the county sheriff there, who's also the coroner, closed their criminal investigation. And so one of our subscribers tried to get through a FOIA request information from California Highway Patrol, and they were told that the case is open, so they couldn't get that. But they should be able to get it from the sheriff's office.
Yeah, the CHP MAIT report, as everyone's putting acronyms in there, but that's the accident report is still open. And you know, our highway, you know, NYPD highway, you know, accident investigation, it's pretty open and shut when you have things that are out on the highway. But when you get into the water, it gets a little sticky. But it's not like it's not straightforward. And the thing of it is that, you know, that's what's leading to more of the confusion, is that keeping these open and not, you know, releasing these reports. And I get that if the investigation is open, you got to keep that thing, you can't let that go out. But at least, you know, the public information officer, we were hearing so much from them. And now once Kiely was recovered, it was crickets. It's crickets. So I think that they're negligent in the respect of communication with even the local community, but you know, now it's you know, this is international. It's not just nationwide, it's international interest. Just a small statement like, hey, grin and, you know, bear with us as we continue this investigation. Those words would just go so long, you know, so far. And by a show of hands in the chat, who feels that that would help just a little bit to keep people from speculating and conspiracies and cover-ups and all of this stuff? When you close down the conversation and you just shut down that communication, this is where and this is my opinion, and I think, you know, many will agree, but this is where people get really, you know, go down the wrong roads because they're left with nothing.
See, 100% I agree with that. And getting back to what happened here and transpired, and I kept saying, you know, there are forensic standards for this. There are forensic standards for the recovery of vehicles underwater. And now Nick has learned them, right? Nick has gone to the courses, and he sees what the standards are. And now you can tell, you know, when you see what happened here, that it didn't really conform to the standards, right, Nick?
Yeah, totally. And I want to come back to what Ron was asking about, some of the other training stuff that we learned that could have helped in this. And then this goes to a question to you, Ed. Another course that I did after both the UCI and the Master UCI course, I took not too long ago. It was only like a month and a half ago. And it was from a company called Lifeguard Systems. The head instructor was a gal named Andrea Zephyrus, which I think you said you might have used to know her or something.
Yeah, she was on my. She was one of my instructors at the Forensic Science Training Institute at the New York City Medical Examiner's Office. She did lectures on drowning.
Oh, cool. So yeah, she was very knowledgeable. That was an incredible course. And another thing I learned on at that particular course, that was a 3-day course, by the way, was when you're finding, and I wished I would have done this on the Kiely case, and now I know moving forward, when you find somebody underwater, you know, you should document it. Take your pictures, video, both close, middle, and far away, so that you can get all three. And now I learned that at Mike Berry's course, but what I did learn from the Lifeguard Systems training course, which was called
Ed, if he was watching us for a long time, he would have learned about the photographing, documenting, sketching. I see you smiling.
Exactly.
This course was aquatic and homicidal drowning investigation course. And what I learned in there, which was interesting, is and I wished I would have done it. Now, once I found Kiely, I just saw part of her legs and was like, my job's done. I found her. Now I should have went in and done a little closer look, because I learned, and Ed, maybe you can help me pronounce this right. It's a term called Tashnor or Taknor. How do you?
Tashnor.
Tashnor.
You're talking about the spots in the eyes.
Yeah, or like a red, so you can kind of tell if somebody was already deceased before they went into water, after, or you can find the glazed over eyes that can tell you possibly how long.
Let me ask you, Nick, and I hate to interrupt because I have to put this thought out there. Ed, as a crime scene expert, a CSI expert, you've processed over 2,500 crime scenes in your time, right? And testified in court and so forth. Is it better for a civilian diver, like someone in Nick's position, to stay out of that vehicle or to venture in there or to get a better picture of what he's talking about?
Well,
I don't know.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, you know. But if Nick was just taking some long range and some medium range photos from the exterior of the vehicle, that would be fine.
But not going in.
Right, not going in to the vehicle. I would not, if law enforcement isn't asking me to do that, then I wouldn't do it. Okay, but if they ask you to do it, okay, because maybe they don't have the expertise or the divers and so forth, then now they're basically, if law enforcement is asking a civilian to do something, they're basically deputizing you. So you have to follow all the forensic standards that you're learning now, and you would take your long range, your medium range, and your close-ups in the exterior, and then you do the same thing in the interior, document the interior of the vehicle with your photographs. So, I mean, you need the proper underwater photographic equipment to do this, and we're not.
He didn't have that. He had a GoPro on his helmet, I think, or whatever you said. You had a GoPro. So, right, what was on the helmet or was on your body?
It was on the full face mask
on the side. Yep.
Yeah.
Sleuthy, our good friend Sleuthy Goosey, Ed, she's always in the chat and questioning. She sends great questions, and here's her question. You know, why are they still investigating though? Like you're still investigating, or you're choosing to leave it? So, yeah.
I have no idea. I have no idea why this amount of time if the case is not closed by them. I have no idea.
People are saying shit or get off the pot. How long are you going to hold on to this thing? It's just causing a lot of people to get angry because, listen, albeit Kiely Rodni's family, I believe her mom, the grandfather, the father, I don't think they're questioning the local authorities. They've accepted that it's an accident, and that's the family. So for everyone else outside of that are cyber sleuths and follow true crime, they're like, wait, this just doesn't make sense. Is that they didn't fully give, even at that press conference, it was like, we found Kiely Rodni. No, Adventures with Purpose found it, and Nick Rinn, when he was, still with them, they found her, that team. So the bottom line here is that, it looked like they just kind of said, okay, it's done here. We're going to just wrap this up and we're going to stop speaking about it and get back to normal.
So, moving on. Yeah, you're right. You're right. We can't answer it because it doesn't make any sense to us, having our law enforcement backgrounds and everything. But let's talk about developing fingerprints on wet surfaces. Okay. So, Ron, if you could bring up, there's a chemical we use. It's an aqueous solution. It's a surfactant mixed with fingerprint powders, and it's called small particle reagent. Okay, so let's take a look at, go back to the photograph, Ron, before we get into the video.
Okay, give me a second. I'll put you guys back on. So you have the photograph, which is right here. Give me 2 seconds. I got to just remove this because photographs and videos are separate things. Here we go, Ed. That's what you want.
Okay, so this is called small particle reagent, and you see the black bottles which would be my right. If you're looking at the screen, your right. This is small particle reagent. Again, it's dark. Okay, and then you have the clear bottles to the left. Those are water rinse bottles, and then you have a bottle in the back in the spray bottle, and then you have wet tape and standard tape that you could use, and then you see the spray nozzles that you can insert into the bottles. And what you do is you may have fingerprints that were deposited on a surface either before it was wet or when it was wet, and now you want to process it without allowing it to dry or waiting for it to dry. Well, with this material, you can do that. And we'll show you how right now. So if you can go to the videotape.
We're going to the videotape. Just eat up a little time and chit chat while I do that. Because I got.
So you shake this bottle up real good. And again, it's basically what I like to say. It's dishwashing soap mixed with fingerprint powders and suspended in there. And what we're going to do, in this case, you have a wet window here that had fingerprints deposit on it before the rain. And you can be doing this in the rain because I've done it actually in the rain. All right. And then now you shake this bottle up and you're going to spray at the top of the window, and you're going to allow the small particle reagent to be affected by gravity and run down over the fingerprint surface. You never want to spray directly onto where you may see fingerprints. So you let the gravity do the work here, and or you step way back and then you spray upward and let it fall lightly down onto the surface. And as you can see there are fingerprints being developed. You start to see them, at least I can count about 4 that I can see with my naked eye there, 4 or 5. There you go. There's 2 sets. Okay. And the fingerprint powders will separate from the surfactant and attach to the sebaceous gland material, which is the oily fats in our secretions from our pores. That's what's basically coating your ridge detail on your fingers. And then when you touch a surface, if you touch a surface that's conducive to accepting it, and you don't put a lot of pressure on it, it then transfer the fingerprints. I mean, just because you touch something doesn't mean you're always leaving a fingerprint. But what you are always leaving is your DNA. Okay. So as he rinsed it with the water rinse. And now he's going to take the wet fingerprint tape
to extract.
Right, and lift.
Is that water Dawn approved, or is it just straight out water?
No, it's just water.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
some people don't even use the water if it's raining outside. They just let the rain do it.
Right. That comment came in from Sleuthy Goosey.
Yeah, he's using a squeegee to place that down there and get all the bubbles out.
I'm going to go back. I want to go back to it because does it matter how you place it on there, or does it have to be precise, or you just get it over the images that you see?
What do you mean, the tape?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be precise. You just don't want to get it over. The good thing about this, the wet stuff, is because unlike a dry surface, you can get air bubbles trapped behind the tape. But when you're doing the wet surface, you can squeegee all of that out with the squeegee, as he's doing here. And now he's transferring it to fingerprint card. And so he's used black spray powder there. And so he's going to use a contrasting white card. And then the fingerprints are now transferred to the card. Okay. And then we photograph all of that and do it into, put it into APHIS. And first we'll make a judgment whether or not there's enough ridge detail there and give it a value or no value designation.
When you say ridge detail, can you explain to the laymen that are watching what you're meaning by the ridge detail?
So on your fingers, you have what's called friction ridges, okay? And they allow you to grip things, right? It gives you that surface texture to allow you to grip things. It's on your fingers, your palms, your toes, and the soles of your feet. Those are the only places that have them, okay? And they're unique. So that's what gets coated inside of their pores, and the pores secrete those fatty acids onto your fingers. And again, depending on how much pressure you use and what kind of surfaces you touch, you may or may not leave that fingerprint impression.
I want to ask you something quick before you continue on. As it pertains, again, to Kiely Rodni, because there's so many people in the chat asking about this. Do you think that they use this method in investigations, or potentially could have used this method in an investigation with that car to see whose prints might have been on those windows? Because remember, Nick described some of the windows were down, some of them were up. One of them got broken out with the turn.
Well, obviously not the broken one, but yeah. The other windows, yes, and the windshield, the back window, they could have used this method, or they could have let the car dry out and then process. Conventional fingerprint wise, you could have used they could have put the whole car in a tent and put crazy glue fumes into the tent, cyanoacrylate fumes, and fume the entire car for fingerprints. They could have done it that way as well, or use conventional fingerprint powders and duster.
Wow.
Okay, so one of the other things that comes up from time to time is, can you get fingerprints from skin? And the answer is yes, I can get fingerprints from skin. So just before I came on the show, folks, I got my wife to volunteer for me, and I left a fingerprint on her forearm. And then using my lifting method, I lifted the fingerprint and then processed the fingerprint with magnetic fingerprint powder. And I'm going to, I created a couple of quick videos and a photograph to show you the results. So Ron, let's start out with video number 1. So that's me touching my wife's forearm with my thumb. You want to show it again?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. All right. Now you'll notice that, you know, skin is very elastic. So when I'm touching her arm, I'm compressing her skin. And when I'm compressing her skin, my ridge details on my fingerprints are being left in the compress mode, which means they're spread apart. Now, when I relieve the pressure from her arm, the skin goes back to its normal state. So those fingerprint ridges will all be compressed together. So if I were to dust her skin directly, all you're going to see is a smudge. You won't see the ridge detail because the ridge detail has collapsed in on itself when the skin went back to its normal state. So to replicate that, I'm going to roll a piece of cash register tape over it. So I'll show you what that looks like, and Ron's going to bring that up. Okay, so everybody, here's the method. Go ahead.
Give me a second.
All right, so this is the cash register tape. It's just paper cash register tape. There you go. I'm going to roll it over there. There's a pencil in that center roll. Okay, so now by using that pencil and the roll, I'm compressing the skin again as I'm going up towards where the fingerprint was. And so the skin spreads, and the ridge details, since it's made with, it's coated with the sebaceous oils, are now absorbed into the paper. And now I'm going to process the paper with what's called magnetic fingerprint powder. So this is regular paper, not thermal or recycled.
Did Margaret receive a fee for this? Because it seemed like you left a really nice impression on her forearm there. Did she receive any fees for her service? Okay. So now you use the duster print, right?
Yes. Now the question was there. Go ahead. Show that it's magnetic fingerprint. Would fingerprints last on skin underwater? Yes. Especially if the water is cold. The colder, the better. All right. Now this is a live person. So over time, her core body temperature would heat up and melt those oils. So I wouldn't get the ridge detail that you're seeing here now develop.
Oh,
so that's magnetic fingerprint powder. So basically that's little metal filings in the powder and a magnetic wand. So
show it again.
So you see it comes out like a little lollipop. And there's the fingerprint being developed.
Off of her forearm.
Now, you would never, in reality, put that fingerprint powder back into that jar the way I did just there. This is for training only, because now that powder is contaminated with her DNA from that fingerprint. So if I did that, I'd be contaminating a whole bottle of fingerprint powder.
Wow.
Okay.
So these are important parts that people don't get to see. The regular lay people don't understand that. Yeah, you never do that. You know,
okay. And so, all right, let's see what we got here.
There was picture of print, tape roll.
I got the actual print right here, so I can show that while you look for it. Well, it's not showing properly. Ron, show the one you got.
I got it. Just be patient with me, Ed. Please. Oh, hold on. I did good up until this point. I got to find the picture. Hold on. Picture is. Yikes. All right. Holy moly, says Joey Brooklyn. Here it is. Hold on a second. I got it. Give me a second.
Again, if the victim is alive, over time their core body temperature will melt the oils, and you won't have any ridge detail, but you'll have plenty of DNA. Zoom in there a little closer.
You're very pushy, Ed. You know, you're lucky I love you because you are.
All right, can everybody see the friction ridge detail?
Hold on.
Pardon my French.
I'll stop it.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, look at that.
Hey, Ron, bend over so I can pull that stick that's driving your nut out of your ass.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
Okay. So
Fascinating.
yes, it is sideways, but you can flip the photograph. But now, folks, key thing here, that's a negative image.
There you
Okay,
go.
so what I'd have to do is photograph this and then flip the photo to get a positive image, and then I can take that positive image. There are more than enough points in this to stick into AFIS, the automatic fingerprint identification system, and do a search and query the database.
And what agency maintains AFIS, Ed?
AFIS, the FBI has AFIS, and New York City has AFIS. Everybody has, like, you have your local database, you have your state database, and you have your federal database, just like CODIS. Okay. So we have our local database, and then once we search that and we don't find anything local, we'll go to state. If we don't find anything state, we go to federal.
Right. Look at the chat. I just want to go to the chat and say thank you to everybody who's here. If you're not yet subscribed, make sure you subscribe to Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, where you will have nights like this where we do Forensic Friday, and it's an learning. It's a way to further educate crime enthusiasts, people who like to follow true crime cases, so you get a good understanding of what can and can't be done. And again, this stuff is out there on YouTube and on the internet if you Google it. So it's not like we're giving up any kind of trade secrets. This is stuff that goes on. Shasta says, gosh, I thought you could only do prints on smooth stuff. Ed, what are you showing us?
So that's the magnetic fingerprint powder. Okay. And that's what it looks like when it comes out. And then if you use the wand correctly, you lift the wand up, it pulls the magnet up, it drops the fingerprint off, powders off. But getting back to fingerprints from skin, now if the victim is dead, and depending on where the victim is, if the victim is, not being baked in the sun, well, it can last longer on the skin in that kind of circumstance because the core body temperature is dropping as the victim is dead, no longer creating heat. It can be done. Like when I have sex crimes, the first thing I do is not go to the scene. I track down the victim at the hospital. I call the hospital emergency room and tell the SANE nurse, the sexual assault nurse, do not perform the sex kit. Do not touch the victim or allow the victim to touch herself. I'm racing to the scene, stand by for me. And then I get there and I'll find the victim and the SANE nurse and go in with my partner. I'll explain to the victim how we get fingerprints from skin and demonstrate it on my partner, and then to empower the victim who's lost all sense of power. Rape does that to people. Yeah. And I would ask her permission. May I try this technique on you? If you can tell me, did the victim touch your skin anywhere? Yeah. And your thigh, your breast, whatever the case may be. And I've never had a victim tell me no, and I've gotten the fingerprints from skin.
Well, and again, when you approach it in that respect and in that way, with that type of approach, you're going to get someone to say, "Hey, look, this person's going to be helping me to try to solve this case." Nick is busy. It looks like he's got his lab coat on, and
he's dusting a knife for fingerprints.
He is.
But this question from KH Walker, Ed, would you prioritize DNA or fingerprints? Well, I can do both. I can swab a surface like a bottle where you might drink with your mouth, which wouldn't be good for fingerprints, but great for DNA, and then process the rest of the bottle for fingerprints. Now, if I attempt a fingerprint on skin and I get a smudge, I get no friction ridge detail, well, then I submit the paper for DNA because I absorbed that DNA from that fingerprint from the sebaceous oil into the paper. The paper now has the DNA. It should be a mixture. It would be a mixture of the victim and the suspect that left the fingerprint.
Ed, we have our first weekly sign up. CCTV says, can we have weekly educational videos like this? We try to do them once or twice a month because, again, Forensic Friday, we don't want to wear out our welcome. And there is a lot to learn here. There's a lot to talk about, but we try to do them once or twice a month. So subscribe and tune in and you'll get these. Nick.
Now, Nick is doing a gel lift here.
There's a lot of people that
go full screen with Nick.
Okay, let's do it. Full screen with Nick. He's got the show.
Okay.
Sure. So what I've got here, and after the course, I was
doing all this time,
curious about.
What the hell were you doing all this time?
Well, I'm working on a fingerprint deal over here. So what I've got is
People want to know.
I just ordered some on Amazon. It's just a basic fingerprint kit. You can get these on Amazon.
Okay, cool.
Black powder one. There's obviously different methods. This is kind of the basic one that I learned. And so I took one of my knives. This is my personal knife here. And I put my fingerprints on it. And I just dusted it with the black powder. And now I see a couple of prints there that I'm going to try to pull from this. And then what I'm going to do after that is I have a couple other knives that I found while scuba diving, and I'm going to put my fingerprints on those and I'm going to submerge them in water. And then I'm going to come back with you in a few weeks, maybe even a month on one of them. And we'll see if the fingerprints are still there after being submerged in water for several weeks.
So Southwest 4x4, the blade is similar to a K-bar, but it's not a K-bar. But anyhow, good question. Nick, you make me so proud.
Yeah, Sleuthy and a bunch of others said in the chat, you inspired Nick. Yeah.
You can't see it, but there's one barely there. I don't know.
So put it on a white card and show it that way.
Let's see if I can.
Teacher Ed is instructing. I got to put Ed on the screen to show his smile.
Okay, so
black powder goes on a white card. White powder goes on a black card. There you go.
If you look, you can barely see it. It's kind of right there. It's so hard to see. Let's see. Can you see it there?
I can see it in the center there.
There's also another one towards the tip.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe I didn't have enough oil on my fingers. But anyway, I just got this particular kit, so I just figured I'd try it out. So now what I was going to show you was I've got this particular knife I found, and actually this one I think I found in Central Oregon in Steelhead Falls with a metal detector. That was another thing that we learned in our course was underwater metal detecting for crime scene stuff. And so I'm going to take that one and I'm going to put some prints on it. I'm going to touch it. Maybe I'll have to get a little more. Put some fingerprints on that. And then I'm going to submerge this one in water. And I've got a little tub here. I'll show you. You can see it's just a little tub of water. And I'll put that in there. And we'll check back with that in a few weeks and see what's going on. And then this particular knife, this one I found in the Willamette River up in Portland years ago. And I don't know, this is like an old Rambo knife, where the back opens up. You can put your little survival kit and your matches in there. And as you can see by the handle, it was submerged for quite a while. It's kind of, corroded and that kind of stuff. So this one, I'll do the same thing.
Can you put that up closer to the screen, Nick? I want to just see that right up close. Wow. Damn, that's a big ass knife.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 12 or 14 inches long. It's a big one. Rambo knife is what I call this. So I'm going to take, and I'm just going to actually just grab that, just like that.
Not too hard. Not too hard.
Yep. Maybe put an extra one there and one there. Okay, so this one, I'm going to put in that same bin of water. And now they're both submerged. So let's keep track. Today's the 15th of December?
Yes, it is.
I don't know why I'm so blurry. It's focused.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. You're good. It might be just catching a little bit there. Yeah. So we'll see in a couple of weeks. We'll come back and we'll take a peek at that and see if it's still there.
Can I answer Ninja's question?
Yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted Ninja's question. So go ahead, Ed.
If we hit that with the MVAC, we might have a better shot at getting some DNA there, even though it was already worked up. So if you speak to Jared from MVAC, he talked about a case study where there was a stone used in a homicide, and they processed the stone for DNA, but they didn't get enough genetic material to get a profile. And so many years went by that stone was in a property clerk. They took it out several years later, and he hit it with the MVAC, and he got full profile.
23 years later. I remember 23 years.
So yeah, if we hit that with the MVAC, we might be able to do that.
The
super glue does super glue on your fingertips change your prints? It doesn't change your prints, but it doesn't allow you to leave prints once you coat it with super glue. Okay, it fills in the ridges and the valleys there. And I had a case like that where actually I was hired by a judge in a federal case to the defendant put super glue on his fingers, and therefore when he committed his crime, he left no fingerprints or DNA because it covers the it fills in the pores rather, and so he wasn't secreting anything while he had those crazy glue on his fingertips. But once you cleaned it off with acetone or nail polish remover, you'll go back to having being able to leave the ridge detail from the fingerprints.
Wow, fascinating. Thank you for that question too, and thank you to everyone who's putting questions in the chat. Hashtag Nick, hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRon. We'll try to scan the chat for some good questions. Buffalo Mountain, Tennessee girl says, does Nick have a YouTube channel? Yes, it's linked in the description of this live stream. And anytime he makes an appearance with us, we link his channel in the description. So you can go on over into the description of this live and you can see his link, and it's clickable. So I made it easy for everybody because I know a lot of people, they don't want to type it out. So all you got to do is go into the description. It's highlighted. You click on it. You leave, but don't do that now because we want you to hang out here and talk with us.
But wait, there's more.
Wait a minute, there is more.
Don't forget, we have Let's Unpack That hidden in the studio.
Thank you. And we're at the hour mark, and Kristen's like, well, what about me? I got questions for Nick Rinn. Kristen, when you give a thumbs up, we'll add you in. Let's unpack that. She is instrumental in helping us make all our thumbnails and do a lot of production behind the scenes. So she is filling in for Josh. She just took right over and she's doing a great job. So Kristen, thank you for all you do for Crime Time with DutyRon and the whole community here.
Thank you. How do I sound?
You sound perfect.
Yay,
right.
Look, I fixed it all by myself. Thanks, Josh.
Yes, absolutely. So, Nick, Ed, there was a lot of questions that we pulled from DutyRon.com, and these were overflow questions from the previous show. And Kristen also took the opportunity to scan the chat from last Sunday. That was the 10th, and now it's 5 days later. We were getting questions coming in while we were live, and because I'm a one-man show here. Ed refuses to help me. All he does is show up with his expertise. And he's like, Ron, get up this image. Ron, what are you doing? Ron, get this. And I'm like, pardon my French.
Pardon my French.
And so Kristen, can you...
I'm not on mute anymore. I can't say things out loud. Sorry.
It's fine. So you have those questions from Nick. It's probably pertaining to, obviously, Kiely Rodni. If you want, just fire them away one at a time. And Nick, if you can answer them, it would be great.
Sure.
All right. So we're just going to kind of go from the top bottom. Some of these, I think you've kind of mentioned at some points in time, Nick, but I don't know if we've really gone over everything. So we're going to start with not Kiely Rodni, because I want to talk about you. So tell me, what are you going to do different, or kind of what things have you changed in your business with organ rescue divers that maybe wasn't something you guys were able to do or could do with previous employment? What are you wanting to do different this time?
Sure. So the first thing is we don't just go around looking for missing persons in vehicles. We have absolutely the capabilities to do that. And I believe those are good cold cases. Those are good practice missions that we could do, or there could be a more recent one. But probably the biggest difference is we are a group of public safety divers that are more specific to finding just like this mission we're going on here in a couple days, where it's a drowning victim underwater and they need help finding it. Now, whether that be using a boat with sonar to find the victim, or some complex search patterns to find the victim, or a combination of both. On my team, we also have multiple boats. In fact, I have 2 boats. So we actually have, I think, 5 total. We have 2 pontoon boats, my little Rescue 1 search boat. We have a 14-foot Zodiac, and it seems like I'm missing one. But anyway, yeah, we have multiple boats. We have We have multiple people that are dive certified. Right now I have 7. So we have a bigger pool of people to utilize when we're on site for safety reasons, or if we have to have multiple divers in the water. We've trained with using line tenders. So in some adverse conditions, the person on the shore as a tender will have a line, a rope going down to the diver and tethered in with a quick release snap shackle. So they're basically hooked on there for safety. They can be pulled out, or another diver can make it down to them easily. And in an emergency, if they need to escape that, they have a quick release on them, so you can pull that loose, and now you're free to go to the surface. I have training now in underwater criminal investigation techniques where it's possibly getting called to look for a murder weapon or some sort of criminal evidence. That's kind of basically the biggest differences that I can think of right now that we will do versus my previous team.
Kristen, 1 second. Nick, that was a very great explanation. Kristen, just 1 second. Ed's got to run, but I wanted to just tell everybody, everyone that's subscribing here and that are becoming members and so forth. Ed and I are going to have a Christmas get together. We do it every year. Well, we did it last year. We're going to do this every year on Sunday. This Sunday, we're going to get together and we will go live for our members. We'll go live to the members first, and then we'll go live publicly. So we'll do 2 live streams from an undisclosed location, because we need to have a little security with our gathering. So but we're going to go live on Sunday, but Ed has to run. He's got some things he's got to do. I think his wife wants to have him maybe massage the inner part of her forearm that he pressed really hard to get the fingerprints tonight. So maybe Ed's got some honeydew stuff checklist to take care of. Ed, thank you so much for all of your expertise. And everyone's asking, do you have your own channel? No, this is
my channel.
This is Ed.
This is Ed's channel.
So yeah, Ed, anything parting for the folks that tuned into Forensic Friday tonight?
Well, I hope you enjoyed the education. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Christian, especially you for standing in the green room for so long. And please, will be safe out there. I want you to remember, be safe. Be prepared. Watch your 6. And I'll catch you on Sunday with Ron.
Excellent. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
take care.
Bye.
Mr. Wallace, leaving us all together here to finish out with the questions. So for the folks in the live chat, continue to send in your questions for Nick or myself and Kristen to read. But I want to just go over quickly these super chats because it's important. So Southwest 4x4 was the last one that we highlighted. This is from you. $5. Why are you sending $5 while you're in? Is that you? While yet?
No, that's not me.
Okay.
Well, yet still today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Dave in Osaka gifted a membership. That's our great friend Dave in Osaka, Japan. He's a great live streamer. He does so many great things from Osaka. If you are interested in that type of content, he travels all over the place and he goes live. He's a fantastic live streamer. Lady Chan, thank you for becoming a member. Jeff, hey, look, Jeff, I just want to go full screen for a second. He sent me this coffee mug. There it is.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
From Wyoming.
Jeff, I love that.
Yeah. So I had my coffee after dinner, after date night. So thank you for that, Jeff. Lady Chan sends in a super chat. She says the super glue, we already covered that. All right, I'm behind myself. Kim McDonald, $10. Ed, this is fascinating. Thank you. So curious how they figured out like using the calculator tape out in the field and fingerprinting. Ed will come on Sunday and we'll answer that question because I know he's got answers. He may even pop back on and say, hey, wait a minute. Let me, Mountain Girl 212, thank you for being a member and thank you for always sharing our live streams. Mountain Girl is so great. She has her own YouTube channel and she talks crime and she talks about a lot of different cases, but she's always sharing our stuff, Ed and myself. And I thank you for doing that. Not many creators will go and share other people's, videos or content. I do it. There's not many out there that do it. So thank you for that. And then to boot, she sends in a Merry Christmas, $20. Ed and I will have a drink on Sunday. Merry Christmas to you and Ed. Coffee is on me. Right away, I said a drink. I meant a coffee. It's Sunday. We're going to get together probably midday. Sherry Davis, thank you for the $10. She says, like Sheila said, Ed emojis for Christmas. Thanks, Nick and Kristen. Kristen, got to get on.
Okay, I said that earlier. I said I wanted an Ed emoji, and then I already said I think we need to do that one with Nick in the magnifying glass. That has to become.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, Nick.
You
When
could
I
make
saw
one.
that picture,
You could make one for his channel, so that would be good.
oh,
All right, let's get.
Nick, I got you.
There you
I'll
go,
be your first member with that.
Kristen. Let's get back to the questions. How many more do you have? You got a bunch? Oh my. Oh my.
I've been crossing them off as we go, and some of them you answer, and a couple of them I thought maybe just some clarification. So
Okay.
one of the things, Nick, and I'm gonna put down this because I kind of know where the question is going. One of the things that people ask a lot is, how did she get in the back of the vehicle? Now, I watch your channel, which if you guys aren't subscribed, please go over, watch it, because he does have a video on this. However, some of the audio was a little hinky. So, Nick, do you mind kind of going back over the explanation of when a vehicle goes in, how, in Kiely's case, she ended up more than likely in the back, and because of the inertia and everything like that, I think a little better explanation or a little more might kind of solve some of those confusions.
Sure. So it's basically a lot of vehicles that are found underwater with human remains in them. Believe it or not, majority of them, the victim is in the rear of the vehicle. And I knew I should have brought my training aid, but I forgot it again. But anyway, the vehicle goes in the water. The engine is in the front. So that's the heaviest part of the vehicle. So obviously that's going to go down first. While this is going on, if the person inside is still conscious, a lot of times they're going to be in a panic state and they're going to be chasing the air pocket. So as the vehicle's slowly filling up with water and filling up, they're going to be chasing the air pocket towards the back. And then eventually it finally will hit. If it's in shallow water, it may hit and then land on all fours. If it's in deeper water, the weight and the momentum of it will take it all the way over. That's why a lot of times they'll be found upside down and the person is in the back of the vehicle. Now, obviously, there's other scenarios where they may end up in the back of the vehicle, but that is kind of the majority of the cases. That's why they end up there.
Excellent. Thank you for that answer. That was good. That's good information right there. And we played a couple of videos, Nick, when we got together last week.
Yeah.
There was two of them, and one in particular where the guy went to the back. The windows were open in the car, and it filled up real quick, and he went to the back seat, and then he was just like sucking air from the back window. That may or may not have been probably what could have possibly happened to Kiely Rodni. Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, guys. I was reading a couple comments, making sure I didn't miss anything here. So, kind of the same lines. You're working with a lot of families. You're working with a lot of people everywhere. By the way, I grew up in Walla Walla, Washington. Yes, I will shout that out. So, I have been your area so many times. That Blockbuster video, I wanted to holler at you. I've been there. So,
Nice.
anyway, a lot of the people really, they see you go everywhere. So, you aren't just going to be Oregon based. Obviously, you're going to Idaho this weekend. Do you have travel plans? Are you willing to go anywhere, work everywhere? Tell us about where you're willing to go.
Yes. So I know a lot of people might think, well, it's Oregon rescue divers. That means they're only in Oregon. No, I kept it that way because I'm kind of a born and raised in Oregon, majority of my life anyway. This is my home state, and that's kind of, this is my area. Now we have the capabilities to go anywhere that we can drive to or fly to, I guess, if somebody had their own boat and sonar, but I don't want it to be locked in. And basically my basic motto is, if somebody contacts me and they need my help or our team's help, and I can physically do it and can afford to do it, I will help them. I'm not going to turn anybody down. There's no job too small, no mountain too tall. We will go wherever people need us to go.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's a great answer to a question that people want to know.
I guess, honestly, did we have any doubt he wouldn't go anywhere where he's called upon? Nick, you're just one heck of a human. So,
yeah. Amen.
With that, how are you going to safeguard families? Think of all the situations that we've seen. There's a lot of underwater rescue divers. and not everyone has the compassion and the empathy, for families. And how can you safeguard that? How can you safeguard those families if you're out there helping them? How are you going to take those precautions?
That's an interesting question. I'm kind of a little confused as to what you're asking there. I have had some practice with dealing with families, and of course they reach out to me a lot of times. So right out of the gate that it's not exactly a perfect scenario that you're getting yourself involved with. So with a little experience, it does get a little easier to help deal with obviously families of a missing loved one or a drowning victim. And it's just one of those things where you have to dig deep and kind of be tough about it and try to push anything deep down inside and just remain professional and open to comfort these people. The biggest thing is to communication. Keep them informed so they don't think you're trying to hide something. If you're on scene and you're searching for somebody and you're not finding them, don't shun the family. Invite them in on, here's what we're doing to try to help. Here's what we've learned. Here's what our next plan is. Keeping them well informed will help with that. And I guess hopefully that kind of answers your question.
I wanted to expand on that because I think where the question was going, and it was user generated from the website. I think what the person was kind of going for is like when families are in crisis, do you have resources for them to get counseling, or like that's what we talk about, those big Rolodexes, right? I have crisis counselors. I've had a doctor come on here to talk about suicide and so forth, and bad thoughts during crisis situations.
Sure.
That's, I think, more of the line of where Kristen was going. Not that it was her question, but it was a question that I read. I read that question over and over again to kind of get the feel for it. So that's, I think, more of what that question.
Okay, I interpreted it different as well. So sorry about whoever put that question, and sorry about that.
No, I like that, Ed, that you have contacts for that, because at this point I'm kind of just starting out. I don't really, but I'm sure there will be a time where I might reach out to you for some of those contact information on that kind of stuff. But you also got to remember too that a lot of times I'm open to, in fact, I'd prefer to work alongside law enforcement or the head detective on these cases. I'm just kind of the water guy, whereas the investigation might have started out, somebody's in charge of that. If they reach out to me, I'm not just going to be going around them and dealing with the family. I want everybody involved so that they're well aware and transparent that I'm a team member of just one little piece of the puzzle, and that there's a lot of resources for them to get help.
Fantastic. All right, so we're into that 1 hour and 15, or a little bit past that.
I have 5 minutes more worth of questions.
Yeah, if you could rapid fire, that would be great.
I will, but some of these are like right around the same things. Is what kind of networking do you need help with? In that you kind of answered part of that, Nick. But more, I think people are looking at like, what areas can we help? Do you have any equipment? Do you need a contact? Is there something along those lines that it would be a value for you? So I'm kind of making that question my own that came on the internet, but expand on it.
Sure. Yes, the networking, we just launched the website that has different pages on it that kind of tells the different things that we can do, the different types of search and, recovery, lift bags, that sort of thing. So yes, anybody who's willing that thinks that they have any contacts that might come in handy for us, I encourage them to go to our website. You can go to the Get Involved page. You can go to the Contact Us page. The donate part is a huge one. Driving 9 hours to another state and getting a hotel room, those kind of things aren't free. We are also trying to save up right now for our own air compressor, because a lot of these locations we go to are in remote locations. So the more equipment we can have to be self-sustained, the better off we will be equipped to help people. Eventually, I'm going to get sort of an ambulance type vehicle so we can have a rapid deployment unit that's ready to go. Because right now we're kind of all using our own vehicles, and the weekend comes along. Now we got to scramble and load everything up. go use it for a mission and then come back, unload it, get ready for work the next week. So, we got guys on our team that need full face masks. There's just, there's a lot of things when you're just starting out and you finally start looking at the list of items that could help us in the future. There's a lot of them. So, one thing that if there's anybody out there that's an expert in grant writing, as a nonprofit, you can apply for state grants, federal grants to help get some of these funds to help cover, for our teams basically in the public benefit sector is what it falls under. So I've been trying to research online as best I can, but anybody who knows anything about writing grants and applying for that, I encourage them to reach out to me because that one's a big question I have, and I'm scrambling to do all this on my own and working full time. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
Perfect. Thank you. There's again, Oregon Rescue Divers is linked in the description. Clickable link. You can go right over to it. I just showed it there as Nick was talking. Donations help move this along. It doesn't happen with no fundage, and you need generous people who are willing to send $1 here, $5 there. It all adds up. If 100 of us send $5 in, that's a lot of money. So, get around these great groups and folks like Nick that are out there trying to do God's work and trying to bring the missing home and try to help local law enforcement and teach them how to, do this the right way. And we just spent an hour and change on education here tonight. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I do is I'm also a scuba instructor and a public safety diver instructor. And if there's any teams out there that are just starting or wanting to start, feel free to reach out. I'm working with a team that is just starting up in northeastern Oregon in a real small remote area. And it's about a 6-hour drive to get there. And I'm going to be going up there. I have to wait till after the winter. And these guys are just starting out. We just got open water certified. They're part of a volunteer firefighter group up there. And they, through word of mouth, they were able to find me. And, what's nice about that, now that they're open water certified, their continuing training is not in a pool. It's going to be more in a lake. So I can go to these remote locations for a few days by myself and conduct these training courses, public safety diver, and do it at their location, at their lake. So it saves them a lot of money for them to have to travel as a group somewhere to a bigger city and get hotel rooms for 6 or 8 people and then have to pay that way. So that's another thing that I do specifically is the advanced training in scuba diver and public safety diver instruction.
Fantastic. And thank you for explaining that to everybody. But here's a question from Ninja Mama. She's the first to ask it in the chat. I haven't seen this yet. Nick, what's your full-time job?
I'm an electrician. I have been for about 27 years.
Oh, outstanding. I got some electrical work. If you're ever in the New York area, I got a couple of things I need done over here. I see Devin Carroll's in the chat. We see a bunch of people answering questions, and I didn't even see that he actually answered it. Look, he beat us to the punch.
Oh, nice.
Your engineer behind you.
Thanks, Devin.
Oh my gosh.
He's the man.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
He has a button, Kristen, that he just presses, and a big light comes down and shines on him. It just.
So you want that from me, is what you're saying? You want a big spotlight that comes down over you? And hey, I've got like 2 more questions.
Okay,
they
let's do
aren't
it.
really. They're kind of about your business, but some of them are, I think, maybe things you might not want to answer. Do you think Kiely was murdered?
No. I don't want to elaborate, but no, I do not think she was murdered.
All right. There's a
Honestly,
definitive point. There's a good
That's all
answer.
you have to say.
All right.
Thank you for honestly answering that. Here's my second question. This is a personal need to know. If you could be given anything right now to help your business, to help you find the next family who comes up missing, what could we give you? Is it help in the grants? Is it help in something else? Is it material? Is it physical? What could somebody do? A group of people, or hell, even just me, Ron, Ed. What could someone do?
Literally, the next priority list is our own portable air compressor for filling our scuba tanks. That's the number one thing on our list. There's a lot of little things, but if we have that, it would save us from having to carry so many tanks and try to say, oh, we're about out of air. Now we need to find the nearest scuba, dive shop, which there's not a lot of those in Oregon. There's probably a lot of states out there that don't have them. Yes, sometimes you can find a fire department, but again, a lot of these places are in very remote locations, and having our ability to fill our own air tanks is the number one priority.
Bingo.
That's huge. Yep. Huge, huge, huge.
Nick, I want to thank you for being so open with these questions. Did you have another one, Kristen? Did I just cut you off? You did. Wow, she was going.
No,
Go
but
ahead.
I was going to be really, really nice.
I don't want her to be mad at me, so go ahead, Kristen. Go ahead.
Actually, my question is coming from somebody in the chat right now, and it was, how long has sonar been used? And how hard truly is it to find a body? When you are only searching 75 feet wide, how hard is it to find that, individual in that body of water? So those are my last two, Ron,
Sure.
and you can kick me out.
Sure. I'll try to make it quick. I don't know exactly how long sonar has been out, but I do know it's only within the last 10 to 15 years that the technology has gotten a lot more affordable to the average Joe like myself that can go out and buy one and use. And how hard is it to find an actual person? It's a little tricky, but I learned this kind of from some of the courses I've been to and then just my own. So you can buy mannequins that you can use for practice. And I've actually used them with a few of my team members where we'll take it out and we will sink it in 15 or 20 feet of water. And then we will take the boat and go back and forth across it and mess with the zoom in on the sonar until we can make out that, yes, that looks like a body. Now, what I have learned is that a lot of times one pass over it, you may not be able to see it. You may have to go at 2 or 3 different angles till the right shadow appears to where you can make out that it actually looks like a person laying on the bottom of a lake or river. And it takes some practice. So it's not super easy, but it's not impossible. What's a little trickier is trying to set what I use is 2 milk crates attached together with a line going up to the boat. And as you go over it, trying to drop that right next to the person so that when the divers go down, they don't have to search. By the time they go down, the goal is it's within an arm's reach of that line to where that victim is, and you don't have to go looking for it. That's a little trickier. But if you do it right, by the time the diver goes in the water, there's no searching. They just go down, bag the body, and up they go.
Wow.
Wow. That's
Fantastic. Hey, I wanted to highlight this question, this comment. Karen Mann says, Nick, let me talk to the lead for Great Lakes Search and Recovery. We might have an extra compressor that would work for you.
Wow.
How could she get a hold of you? From your website?
Yep. You can go to the contact page of the website, send an email, and it goes directly to or you could hit me up directly. It's just nick@OregonRescueDivers.com.
Yeah, and there's a contact page there as well on the website. I shared it. I think everything is just scrolling in this banner down here. So Karen, thank you for that.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope that works out. There's a lot of more, a lot of questions as it pertains to Kiely Rodni, and we're not ignoring some of the questions. It's just that Nick cannot answer some of these specifics because remember, folks, he dove on the car. He found Kiely Rodni. He is not in law enforcement. He's not an investigator. He's not continuing to investigate. So all of those questions, albeit they're good, he cannot answer them because he doesn't know about the things that led up to this unfortunate situation happening. And I want to call it an accident because that's what they deemed it. So this unfortunate accident that has been determined by the California Highway Patrol, Nick does not know what the events were leading up to it. He knows what he did. He went in that Prosser Lake and he scanned it. He went one way. The other team members went the other, and they saw that object in the water that looked like a vehicle, and he dove on it. Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't like to speak for you, but
you hit it right on the head.
Yeah. So that's his involvement. If he had the answers to these questions, he would answer them. And he's been more than kind and has taken out almost an hour and 30 minutes of his time here Friday night, albeit we didn't have to pull his, we didn't have to put his arm behind his back and say, hey, come on with us. He wanted to do this. So I want to just say thank you, Nick, on behalf of this community here. And I'm hoping that everybody considers supporting Nick in his venture. I certainly have, with the help of you guys. We sent $500 over to him last Sunday. I think immediately after the live was over, I sent that PayPal donation over to him. That's not coming from me. It's coming from us. So, Nick, very appreciative of your support, your questions, your comments, your concerns. The offers for equipment and help are just what he needs. This is what a volunteer group needs. They need people to come out, volunteer either your time or any of the resources or equipment This is what makes it happen. Nick, go ahead.
I think people forget too. Nick is a volunteer. Even when he was with a previous organization, he is a volunteer. His job that day is to do what he did.
Yeah.
He found a young woman who was missing in her vehicle while he was scuba diving. And so I know there's a lot of individuals who may want to go back on that and say, oh, you must know more than you do. And Nick, I'm sure that must get really frustrating because you were the one who did your job. You went down, you dove, you found her. After that, it is all up to other people. Has nothing to do with Nick, has nothing to do with his previous employer, and it has nothing to do with his company now. And I want to thank you. And I'm sure you get hell because people don't seem to maybe grasp all of that. And saying it out of turn, I'm sorry, Ron, but I just had to say, Nick, I'm sorry. And thank you. You did your job and you did a beautiful job. So
thank you,
other
Kristen.
than that,
I appreciate
Ron,
it.
thank you for letting me hang out.
Thank
Nick
you, Kristen.
will want to talk to me. I have a technical writing certificate from Washington State University. I can help with some grants.
Wow.
Yes. Thank
Good
you.
stuff. All right. So I'll get Nick, if it's all right with you, I'll exchange your number with her.
Absolutely.
Get in contact with you. All right, Kristen, thank you. I love you. I appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kristen.
There she goes, Kristen. I just also want to tell you, I got a text message in from our family doctor here on YouTube in my community. They happen to be right in Pocatello, Idaho. Dr. Ed Moskowitz and his wife, Julie, said, Ron, if Nick needs anything, I can bring him any supplies, medical needs, his care while he's here in our area. It's on me. Just a phone call away. Just wanted to offer the olive branch. Julie and Dr. Ed Moskowitz.
Thank you, Julie and Dr. Ed Moskowitz. That's awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll exchange their number with you. I'll give you their number. If you contact them, anything happens, God forbid, a cut or anything like that, they will respond. They've been in Pocatello, Idaho for many decades. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Nick, on behalf of this whole community and from man to man here, I want to thank you for everything that you do and appreciate you taking out the time. I hope you'll come back again and join us. We got 2 weeks from now. We want to see the fingerprints on that knife.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
looking forward to it.
Everybody,
I want to thank you for the donation that you did. That's awesome. And thanks for, having me on your show. This is good exposure to get the word out there of what I'm doing. And I really appreciate it. I can't say that enough. And I love coming on your show. And I can't wait to come back and talk about the fingerprints and whatever else you guys want to talk about.
Outstanding. We look forward to it. And anytime that we can help to support. And again, that came from my community, not just me, myself. So all the people that are here in the chat, I want to say thank you to you, the super chatters, the replay viewers, the moderators, the folks who send cups of coffee, Patreon supporters. You guys are excellent. And if you're not yet subscribed here to Crime Time with DutyRon, please consider subscribing. Also subscribe to Nick Rinn's channel. It's linked in the description. Rattlesnake Rinn, I believe, is what it is under on YouTube. And again, I on behalf of this community, we say thank you to you and your staff, your team that are out there doing God's work and doing it really, as it stands right now, on a volunteer basis. You're doing it for free. So thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
All right, guys and girls, we're going to say goodnight. And we have a message from our cop team, Kara, Oscar, and this guy right here, my 35-year-old African gray parrot, Popeye. Nick, you got to see him. called.
That's
What did you
awesome.
call him? What did you say? Is that an eagle or what did you say?
Is that a crow?
A crow? No, it's my African gray parrot, for crying out loud. Nick, good night. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Peace and love, guys. Good night.